We're going to start with chapter 22, Pasuk Aleph, verse 1. This is the story of the akeidah. So, akeidah is a very powerful passage, and even though it's the end of the parasha, let's begin with it. It's a passage about sacrifice. And let's see what the Torah has. Let's see what we come up with this week when we study the Chumash with the Rashi. So Aryeh is going to read. I sometimes call him Yehuda, sometimes call you Aryeh because I don't know how it works. What your family calls you Yehuda, and your friends call you Aryeh. Which do you prefer? Okay, so I do both. All right, you read the pasuk and I'll read the Rashi. Chapter 22. What? Yeah, if you want, but you don't want it. So you read the psukim and I'll read the Rashi. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so very good. So Vayhi Achar, it was after after these matters. V'ha'elokim Nisas Avram, God tested Avram. Vayomer Elav Avraham, and he said to him Avram, and Avram said, Vayomer Hineni. The pasuk. So it says God tested. This leads us to the question of why is there a test? Why is God testing Avram? So one of the things I was thinking after being in Israel this past week, where I learned this phrase, post-traumatic growth. Sometimes people are challenged and they just come away with just an incredible growth as a result of being challenged. So maybe Avram was being tested by God just to show him what he was capable of, to reach even greater heights. So anyway, I'll read the Rashi. And then Yehuda will continue with the psukim. Achar Brahma Rashi says, Yesh Mira, after what? The question is, after what did this test take place? After what event in Avram's life did this test take place? So Rashi says, there are some of our rabbis who say, Achar Dvarav Shal Satan. After the Satan had said certain words, the Satan, meaning to say after the words of the Satan. What were the words of the Satan? Because the Satan said, Shayimikatreg. Vomer, the Satan was accusing Avram and saying, Mikol Suda Sha'asa Avram, Lo Ikriv Lefanecha Par Echad. So Avram kept making, in the previous paragraph, it says, Vayita Eshel Be'Beersheva, that Abraham planted an Eshel in Beersheva. So Rashi there, it said that what was this Eshel? That this was a pundak. He made a lodging for guests, and he used to serve a lot of food there. So according to this, it says from every meal that Avram had done, hold on, which we'll actually go back to Pasuk Chet, it says, Avram made a great party on the day that Yitzchak was weaned. So Avram made a great party. So he said, look at all this great party that Avram made. But he never brought a bull before you as an offering. Why didn't he bring a sacrifice? Or ayil echad? He never brought one ram. Amar, well, God said back to the Satan, everything that Abraham does, he does for his son. If I would tell him, slaughter your son before me, he wouldn't refrain from doing it. Meaning to say, Satan was challenging Abraham. Satan here doesn't mean like the evil Satan. Satan is like the prosecutor before God, whose job it is to tell God that, look, this guy is not as great as you think you are. In this sense, he's fulfilling like in the book of Job. He's saying, listen, Abraham's not who you think he is. He was selfish. He never offered a bull. He never offered a ram. So God said to him, look, Abraham would even be willing to sacrifice his own son. And so that's what this was a test of. The Yeshom, an alternative version, is Achar Dvarav Shal Yishmael, after the matter of Yishmael. Why? Shaya Mispa'era Yitzchak. Yishmael was exalting himself over Isaac. Shemal ben Shloshes Reshana because Ishmael had circumcised himself at the age of 13. And he didn't object. So Amar lo Yitzchak said, Be'ever achad atam niyar'eni, you're trying to scare me through one organ, meaning to say that you circumcised yourself at the age of 13, and you're showing how great you are? If God would tell me to slaughter my whole self before him, I would not refrain from doing so. So these are the two things, the two conversations. Either it was the conversation of Satan with God, or else it was the conversation of Yishmael and Yitzchak. But that's why God chose to test Isaac at this time. But according to the first approach, it was a test of Abraham, because Satan said Abraham wasn't really ready to offer the things that were most precious to him. According to the second approach, it was a test of Isaac, that Isaac was saying, I'll even give up my whole body. So we see from here two fundamentally different approaches to the akeidah. Was it primarily a test of Avram, or was it primarily a test of Yitzchak? And the Hasidic rabbis debate that. Who was the ultimate test for? Who do you think it was a greater test for, Aryeh? What? For Avram. But the challenge, why was it a greater test for Avram? Why would you say that? Because he has to kill his son. It would be much easier to give up your own life than to kill your son. And that's a very strong argument. But on the other hand, Avraham heard the challenge directly from God. Yitzchak didn't hear it directly from God. So that's the flip side of it. So it's a question of who was a greater challenge for. And then he says, okay, next Rashi says, Hineni. Abraham says, here I am. He says, Kachi ani atasha chasidim. If you want to be a chassid, this is what it means. You say, here I am. Lashon anavahu, it's an expression of humility. Lashon zimun, an expression of readiness. Expression of humility and readiness. So if somebody asks you to do a mitzvah, the proper response is to say, Hineni, meaning, of course, I'll do it. I'm humble and I'm ready. Okay, now we're up to read Pasuk Bet Aryeh, B'vakasha. Omar. Right, so he says, Kachna, take now, please, as bincha, as your son, as yechidcha, your only son, asher ahavta, the one whom you love, as Yitzchak, Isaac, v'lech lecha, and you shall go, el eretz Hamoriah, to the land of Moriah, v'aleu sham le'olah, and bring him up there for an olah offering, or bring him up there for an olah, one of the mountains that I'll show you. So let's see what the Rashi say here. Katna, please now take. But why does he say, hey, do this for me? Why does God have to say please to Abraham? Abraham is a human, and God is God. Why does God have to say please? She says, Ein na ela leshon bakasha. The word na is an expression of a request. Amarlo, God said to Abraham, Bevakasha mimcha, I request from you, Amodli, B'zeh nisayon, stand for me in this trial. Stand for me in this trial. Shelo yomru harishonot lo b'mamash. God was begging Avram to overcome this trial. He says, I want you to overcome this trial so that people don't say that the first trials were insignificant. So therefore, I want you to overcome this trial. God is begging. God is begging. What were the 10 tests? What were the 10 tests? So Rashi here doesn't say what the 10 tests were, but in his commentary to Pirkei Avos, Rashi, chapter 5, Mishnah Gimel, Hey Gimel 5:3, there in Pirkei Avos, explains what the 10 tests were. Do you know what the 10 tests were, Aryeh? Can you guess any of them? Oh, this is according to Rashi. Ramban has a different version. But what do you think they are? Okay, so number one was Nimrod wanted to kill Avram, and so he had to hide underground for 13 years. That's in the Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer. Number two, Nimrod cast him into the furnace. That's at the end of Parshas Noach. Number three, Hashem exiled him from his birthplace. Number four, that was the beginning of last week's Parsha, Lech Lecha. Number four, Vayhira Avar, there was a famine. Number five, Sarah was taken by Paro and Avimelech. Number six, he had to wage war against Chadar Omer and the other three kings that took her captive. Number seven, at the Brit Ben Abtarim, God showed him that his descendants were going to be enslaved at the hands of the four kingdoms. Number eight, Hashem told him to circumcise himself and his son. 9, Hashem told him to send away Yishmael and Hagar. Number 10 is over here. That Hashem said sacrifice his son. The other versions stick, like Rambam's version, sticks entirely to the text of the Torah. Meaning, say, if it's not written in the text, he doesn't view it as a test, because it's only from the text itself, not the Midrash. Okay, so now he says, take now your son. Rashi says, because we want to know here, why does it say your son, your only son, the one whom you love, Yitzchak? Why don't he just say Yitzchak? So Rashi imagines a dialogue between God and Abraham. Amarlo, God, when Abraham heard this, he said to him, take your son. Abraham said, Shnei banim yeshli, I have two sons. Amarlo, God said to him, Es yachidcha, your only son. Abraham said, Amarlo, Zeh yachid le'imo, v'zeh yachid le'imo. Each one is an only child for his mother. Amarlo, asher ahavta, the one whom you love. And Abraham responds, Amarlo, shneim ani ohev, I love both. Amarlo, es Yitzchak. He says, Yitzchak. Lama lo gilu mitchila. So why did he not tell him it was Yitzchak from the start? Shelo arbavo pitom. So as not to confuse him. V'tazuach dato alav, lest his mind become disoriented. V'titaref. And which part don't you get? Yeah, because he was worried that if you have to build up when you there's two reasons. The first reason is if God said straight out, sacrifice Isaac, Abraham would have gotten all confused and he would not have been in a proper state of mind. He had to build up to it. And if he had accepted it when he was not in a proper state of mind, it wouldn't have been the same level of acceptance. So he wanted him to be composed. So he built up to it. It's building up to it. Yeah. He's building up to your son, your only son. He said to him slowly, so he got there slowly. But you're right. It's a little bit of a confusing. What? Well, that's what God was saying. Your favorite, and Rashi said, and he says, no, I love them both. So it's a little bit challenging. And a second one is kedei lechabed bo mitzvah, to lechabed beloved the mitzvah. You want to make it more precious. You build it up. We take lo slara called dibor v'dibor. He spoke a lot of words to give him reward for each and every command. Aryeh is pointing out that these answers are somewhat incomplete, because what do you mean he was confused? Why would he be more confused if he said your son, and that would have confused him straight from the start also. So he is raising a good question. I don't know what that was. It started a noise. Okay. Now he says, take your son to the land and go to the land of Moriah. Rashi says, Eretz Moriah, this is Yerushalayim. Bahar Moriah. This is Mount Moriah. And our rabbis explained why. Al Shem Shemisham Hora'ah Yotzal Israel. Why is it called Mount Moriah? You know what Mount Moriah is? Which mountain? The Temple Mount. So why is the Temple Mount called Har Moriah? There used to be a hotel in Israel called the Moriah Hotel. Nowadays it's called the King Solomon Hotel. Or maybe it changed its name again. I don't know. But why was it called Mount Moriah? Because from there, the Hora'ah went out to the Jewish people. The Hora'ah went out. So Moriah is related to Moreh, instructor. Because teachings go out to the world. Onkelos explained, Al Shem Avodat HaKetoret. Because there on the Temple Mount, they did the service of the Ketoret. So the whole mountain gets its name from the Ketoret. Come on in, Ayal. The whole mountain gets its name from the Ketoret. Sheyesh bo mor ne'erd ushar b'samim, because it has the mor, and so therefore it's called Moriah. Moriah. Okay, we're in chat. What page are we on? You could tell, Ayal. Did you come with Eitan? Okay, Baruch Hashem, Ayal. Okay. Va'aleu sham. We're at chapter, what pasuk? What page? 110, Ayal. Va'aleu sham, and bring him up there. So this is a very, very important Rashi. Very important Rashi, because everybody assumes that God told, not everybody, but most people assume that God told Avram to sacrifice Yitzchak. But he never said that, Eyal. Eyal, you want to read the Rashi? He never said it. Can you read the Rashi? Va'aleu? Va'aleu sham? You have it, Eyal? Pasuk bet. Va'aleu sham, I'll read it. So what page are we on, Aryeh? 111, Kobe. Va'aleu sham, lo amar lo shechateu. God never said to Avram, slaughter Isaac. He never said that to him. Did you know that, Eitan? God never told Avram, slaughter Isaac. That's what Rashi's saying. He never said that. Read the Rashi. Let's read the Rashi. Lo amar lo shechateu. He never said slaughter him. Ella, do you see the place, Ayal? It's the next Rashi. He says, Lo amar lo shechateu. He never said slaughter him. Ella lahaloto lahar almanat lasoto olah. He says he only intended, he says, bring him up to the mountain to make him considered like a korban olah. He never said to slaughter him. He said, just bring him up and basically give him the status of an olah. Give him the status of an olah. So Mishahaleo, and once he brought him up, Amarlo Horideo, God told him to take him down. I mean to say, I want you to basically designate Isaac and make him holy, but God never said to slaughter him. God never said to slaughter him. So Avram misheard. He never said to slaughter him. He said, designate your son to make him holy. In this sense, like make him like a Nazir, make him separated. So you always have heard it as saying God said to slaughter him. It's not what the text actually says. That's Rashi. Do you ever know that, Kobe? You never heard that, are you? It's right there in the Rashi. Okay. Al echad ha'arim, on one of the mountains, you have the place Ayal. Okay, read that Rashi. Tzadikim. Hashem makes the tzadikim get anxious. Hashem doesn't reveal everything to the tzadikim right away. And only afterwards. So God doesn't tell the tzaddik right away. God holds back. And only afterwards does he tell the tzaddik. Laharbot, It's all this is to increase their reward. So God doesn't tell the tzaddikim everything right away so that they get reward. He's going to hold back to see if you're willing to do it. So nowadays, if God asks us to do something, we're saying, no, it's got to be 100% on my terms. But for the tzaddik, God just says, go, and doesn't tell him. So he says, bring him up on one of the mountains. I'll show it to you. One of the mountains. It's interesting. And he gives other examples. He says, to the land that I will show you, he says, go at the beginning to the land I will show you. Didn't show him right away. Also by Jonah, he says, proclaim over her the proclamation. It's interesting that there are two most famous mountains in the Bible. What are the two most famous mountains? What? Har Sinai, and what's the other one? Har Moriah, Temple Mount. So which one is still holy? Only the Temple Mount. Why did Har Sinai not retain its holiness, whereas the Temple Mount did? Har Sinai was a temporary holiness. But Har Moriah was from the beginning holy, and it retained its holiness. So it's an interesting contrast. The contrast between Mount Sinai, which is not holy anymore. What? What? Well, that's exactly right. Aryeh says Aryeh is speaking truth. He's a truth flamethrower tonight. That the Mount Sinai has no use anymore. The Torah was given on it; it has no purpose. Whereas the Temple Mount, it still has a future purpose. What's the future purpose? That's where the Beis Hamikdash will be rebuilt. So it retains its holiness. I mean, there is a debate in the Talmud: does it retain its holiness until the Temple Mount, until the temple is rebuilt there? But regardless, everybody agrees that it will be holy again. It's just that the Mount Sinai will never again be holy. What? I've been to, of course, I've been to the Temple Mount. Yeah. No, it's not.
Like they let you in. You need like special.
I've been a few times. In order to go to Temple Mount, first of all, you have to go to the mikvah first. And then when you go to Temple Mount, there's certain places you're allowed to walk, and certain places you're not allowed to walk. I don't know what the status is now, but when I went up, there was you weren't allowed to pray because they said praying is too provocative. You walked in through the there's a ramp. If you're at the Kotel and you look to the right, there's a ramp that goes up. So you could go up that ramp, and then they let you go in there and make sure that you're not carrying any weapons, God forbid. And they check your ID, and then you go in and now as religious Jews, you have to remove your shoes. And then you walk up there. And so my group, there are a couple of people who didn't like being told that they couldn't pray. I might have been one of them. And so the one of the guys got detained by the police for a while. We had a lot of I don't know if were you with us at that time, everyone? Mordechai, Aviv and Mordechai?
Yes, I think we were.
Oh, Aviv and Mordechai
Yes.
were with us. I remember, one of the guys from our group got detained, and
Yes,
it was a whole here. Hold on one second. They can't hear you.
yes.
It was a whole story that he got detained. He had good footage, but the footage got taken away. But yes, I went on the Temple Mountain. You should go too next time you're there.
I actually made a mistake when I was in the Arab Shuk. I almost went and they wouldn't allow me.
Oh no, you can't go in through the Arab Shuk.
Stairs, like right there. They wouldn't allow me.
No, yeah, the Jews can't go in there, and that's an exit. You exit into the Arab Shuk, but you can't go in through the Arab Shuk. You go in through the through this ramp. They control it. There's a lot of today custom is on the day of the wedding, brides and grooms go up before they get married, or many people go up on Tisha B'Av. It's become a whole thing in Israel. The reason I went up was because Rabbi Riskin encouraged me to go up. He said, yeah, you should go up. Use it or lose it, he said. Who am I to argue with Rabbi Riskin? Okay, so Okay, Pasuk Gimel. Okay, so this is one of my favorite psukim in the whole Bible. Aryeh, please read.
Vayashkin Abraham Babota Es Amoro Vayita Es Shemel Ne'arai Ito Ve'es Yitzchak Beno Yavata Atse Ola Vayakam Vayelav El Hamakom Asher Amar.
Very good. So Avram woke up in the morning. Vayashkim Avram Babukar. Avram woke up in the morning. Vayachavosh es chamaro. He saddled his donkey. Vayikach hashnei na'arav. He took the two boys with him, two lads. Ve'et Yitzchak beno, and Isaac his son. Vayivaka atzeoah, and he split the wood of the oah. Vayakam vayelech, and he got up and he went. To the place that Mordechai, to the place that God said to him. Let's look at the Rashi. Vayashkem. So Avram got up early. Nizdarez lemitzvah. When you're moved for a mitzvah, you wake up early. Tried to call. I'm not going to say who. Maybe somebody here to wake him up early this morning. And when it's a mitzvah, you wake up early. Vayachavosh, and he saddled his donkey. Rashi says he himself saddled it. Hello, Jeffrey. He did not command any one of his servants to do it. Why? Jeff. Oh, you have it? This is a blessing that I have for everybody here. Love breaks the correct order. If when you're in love, has anybody here been in love? Well, it's not going to call on Jeff and Michael, but any of the younger guys, you've been in love. You have it with you, Jeff? Do you need to borrow one?
One more.
No, Jeff, do you need to borrow a kippah?
No, I brought the wrong paper for you to sign.
I'll sign it tomorrow.
I told him I'd send it to Mouth. I'll have to go back.
Okay, but you need a kippah.
I know. Okay.
What? Jeff, right there in the corner. Yeah, in the corner. So, well, afterwards, I'll be here for 40 minutes after davening.
The English expression is all is fair in love and war, and I was sure that Rashi brings here the story about Bilam because he contrasts the two, that Bilam also did the same exact action, which was against the Jewish people.
No. I yes, for sure. It's from the same Gemara, but it's not that with my Chavrusa Rabbi Yosef. The expression is not all is fair in love and war. That's a different expression. This is the expression of love makes you do crazy things, crazy love. That no matter what, like Abraham was a proper, speaking properly, Abraham should not have saddled his own donkey, but because he was in love, he love of God, he saddled his own donkey. All right, let's stop here to daven mincha at this time. Shkoyach.